What defines a boss? Well, according to Wikipedia, a boss is a significantly powerful NPC created as an opponent to players. So now that we have a basic definition, this video will not feature the likes of Cesare Borgia, Pierre Bellic and those types of people, as those don't really fit the mold of what I'm going for. What I'm referring to are those fights with a big health bar above their name. The focus on this video is going to be on the four most recent games, being Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla and Mirage, because believe it or not, those games are the ones with the boss fights in them. Well, I say Mirage, but there's only one. Now here's a pretty mind-blowing number for you, which is 147. That's the total number of bosses across these four games. I know it sounds crazy, but I promise there are indeed around 147 bosses, give or take, and if I'm being honest, there's only about 17 or 18 of them that are quite memorable. Now I'm not going to rank all 147 because that would be inhumane, and the video would be a minimum of 2 hours long. Also, just to clarify, when I say boss fight, I don't mean anything on the level of Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Sekiro and so on. That should be pretty obvious, but I already know there's going to be that one insufferable person down in the comments below saying these bosses are nothing compared to Souls bosses, and yes, I know, but that's not the point of this video. If you do enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not. Now that I've said that, let's get into my personal favorite bosses in the Assassin's Creed series. Real quick before we jump into the video, I've got something pretty cool to show you. I've always been into collecting Pokemon cards since I was a kid, and since then, I haven't really had the same enjoyment. Well, that is until now. Raid Shadow Legends simply has an endless amount of content to sink into, and what's amazing is right now, they're giving away some amazing rewards just for getting started. By using my link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen, you can grab the epic champion Tagoar from the Orc faction absolutely free, along with a bonus starter pack. Plus, when you reach level 15, you'll get a second epic champion, Grizzled Jarl from the Dwarves faction. And it gets even better, use the promo code Monkey King to unlock a legendary champion, Sun Wukong. You know, the iconic monkey we all know and love from the Chinese mythology? But be quick, it's only available till the end of November. The cool thing about all these heroes is they will give you a huge advantage right from the start, helping you progress faster to dungeons, campaigns and even some pretty tough boss battles. One of the things I love about Raid is how strategic it is. It's one of those games where you're not just collecting champions for the sake of it. You're literally building a team that complements each other's skills. Plus, taking down a clan boss with friends and watching everyone's strategies come together is a blast. Now what I want to do right now is open some shards. I've got a mix of blue, purple and orange shards here, and I cannot wait to see who we pull. Some of these champions have crazy abilities, and honestly, even if I don't get the top tier heroes, they're still super useful. I can either level them up or use them to power up my stronger champions. So let's see who we get. So as you can see, I got 2 greens, some purples, I got 4 oranges, so let's just open them and see what we get. So let's start with a green, one uncommon. Okay, I like the animations though, I will say. Squire level 1, so I assume that's like a basic kind of character, which is pretty interesting. Now let's try a blue. So this is definitely a big step up from the 500 coins to the 20,000, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's a lot better than a Squire though. Oh, looks like someone from God of War. Madman, that fits his name. Now let's try a purple one. Okay, here we go. And we get, who is that? Reliquary Tender. That's a very, very cool design. Wow, look at the detail. Damn. Okay, now let's try a orange or a gold. Now this is the big one. Let's see who we get for this one. I'm actually interested to see. Oh man, Warden, what a name. Holy, he looks so unique. He is dripped out, wow. Yeah, he's got a nice sword and shield. Dark Elves, epic character, okay. Let's open another orange. Hopefully we can get somebody better because I know we can. Oh, lightning. Now this person looks way better. Missionary, design is very, very clean. Yeah, I like his cape. His cape is very good. Reminds me of something from Elden Ring. I don't know why. Yeah, he looks like an Elden Ring character. He's from the Sacred Order and he's epic. That's cool, that is. So yeah, if you haven't started playing yet, now's the perfect time. Press the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get insane bonuses that are only available through my link. You'll get an epic champion Tagoar from the Orc faction right away. And it doesn't stop there. Once you hit level 15, you'll unlock another epic champion, Grizzled Jarl from the Dwarves faction, a real powerhouse with magic affinity, known to be stronger than he looks. Plus, for a limited time, use the promo code Monkey King to get the legendary Sun Wukong for free. But you have to act fast. As I said, this offer is only available until the end of November. Come find me under the name The Hidden One and join my clan Hidden Ones once you're level 13, and let us conquer Teleria together. Before I get into my official ranking of the bosses in this video, I first want to really quickly go over some honorable mentions that did not make it into the actual ranking of the video. These honorable mentions are not bad at all, but just very closely missed out. Now, I'm not going to give a detailed explanation for each of these bosses, so I'll make it very brief. The first honorable mention is Tutankhamun from the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC in AC Origins. There's also the elephant fights in AC Origins, so that's all 4 I believe. There's Odin from AC Valhalla, Eric Loyalskull from AC Valhalla. That was a pretty decent boss, especially with his backstory. There's the Lost Wolf from the Valhalla Asgard realm, the 4 champions from the Fate of Atlantis, which were Perseus, King Agamemnon, Achilles and Heracles. There's the giant snake from AC Origins, there's Nidhogg, that big ass dragon from AC Valhalla's Forgotten Saga DLC, and the last honorable mention is the Trial of the Gods bosses, which might be considered controversial. Okay, so now that I've gone over my honorable mentions, let's get on with the actual ranking. Let's start off the list of the best bosses in Assassin's Creed, according to myself, with a boss that might not seem like a boss you'd be frightened of. But on Nightmare difficulty, this boss named Isfet is no joke. I'm pretty sure like 2 or 3 hits and you lose. Now, Isfet is the boss you encounter during the festival of Sekhmet in Yarmu. I do believe the inspiration for this character comes from the Egyptian representation of chaos and violence, and in the game, Isfet is portrayed by whoever is wearing the suit of armor during the ritual. The fight itself is pretty decent. It's your standard big brute enemy with a shield, but when I fought this boss in my pacifist challenge video, which I played on Nightmare difficulty, it took a while because of how hard he hit. One of the toughest parts of the fight is the spinning attack he does, which feels completely unblockable. It also didn't really help that the dodge roll in this game is a bit unpredictable. So yeah, add the whole Egyptian mythology, the challenging fights on Nightmare, and it's a boss that I like to think is pretty fun. The Dag boss fight in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is one of my favourite ones in this game, and it's not because of the boss design or the challenging fight, which there isn't one by the way, but rather the narrative and emotional impact it has on Eivor, Dag and the rest of Ravensthorpe. You see, Dag challenges Eivor to a holmgang, which is a traditional Norse duel in the dead of the night, accusing Eivor of being more focused on their personal glory than finding Sigurd. This boss fight is way more than just a regular boss fight. It's a battle for the soul of the clan, with Dag representing the old ways and Eivor symbolizing a new path forward. The thing I like about this fight is how important choices are at the end, because whatever decision you make quite literally affects the outcome of the main story ending. In Dag's dying moments, he hopes for a chance to enter Valhalla, and we're left with a choice: honor Dag's final wish and give him his axe, or deny it and toss the axe away, leaving him without peace in death. Now, if you chose the second option, first of all, what the hell is wrong with you? And second of all, I'm pretty sure that affects your main story ending. So yeah, the Dag boss fight is a turning point for Eivor, Sigurd and the entire clan, and it is definitely a rare memorable moment in this non-memorable story. This boss right here, named Hecatoncheires, or however on God's green earth you pronounce it, has to be one of the most unique and unusual designs. I genuinely couldn't tell you what it is I'm looking at. In fact, according to the official Assassin's Creed wiki, this boss is a monstrous hybrid creature, and we encounter this boss during the Fate of Atlantis DLC, but more specifically the final episode. It's a boss that's pretty fun, and it definitely seems like it belongs in The Witcher 3 or some fantasy game. Oh wait, Odyssey is a fantasy game. Now what I will say about the actual boss fight is if you're not the recommended level, it can turn into a pretty long fight, as for some strange reason, this boss has an absurd amount of health. The boss is a massive many-armed monster that's constantly flailing and attacking you with some rather unpredictable movements. It does seem like the sheer number of arms coming at you makes it hard to read its attacks. But apart from the many arms, the fight has this creepy aspect by throwing actual humans at you, which are poisonous ones that explode into toxic clouds if you get too close. It's both horrifying and strangely entertaining, but despite all the creepiness, the fight is genuinely fun. It forces you to think a bit, from melee attacks to range bow shots. Also, the abilities are pretty important here, like Ares' Madness and Second Wind. So yeah, this many-armed thing is definitely worthy of this video. I don't know if this is considered questionable, but the Cyclops or the many Cyclops in Assassin's Creed Odyssey are bosses that I would consider quite fun, even though some may say they're repetitive. First of all, they're pretty deeply rooted in Greek mythology. Each Cyclops, Brontes the Thunderer, Steropes the Lightning Bringer, and Arges the Bright One are towering one-eyed giants that bring a strange but pretty fun challenge to the game. Well, on Nightmare that is. Like I said at the start, I'm not really sure about the other difficulties. What makes these fights particularly enjoyable is, I guess, the idea of, facing such massive creatures, and each one is a bit different from one another. One is based on a fiery volcano or a misty swampy beach, which adds a distinctive approach to each encounter. Even though their movesets may feel somewhat similar, the challenge comes in adapting to their massive size, their unpredictable attacks, and the specific environmental challenges of each fight. Also, this could just be me, but there's something inherently unsettling about facing giant one-eyed beasts in an ancient ruined setting, knowing that these creatures were created by the ezio as part of their whole mysterious Olympus project. Well, that's only if you play the Fate of Atlantis DLC, that is. Let's stay on the theme that is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which to me had the best looking bosses and well designed bosses out of the 4 recent games. And this boss comes from the very start of the legacy of the First Blade DLC, and it's the boss that's named Unknown Assailant, which of course is Darius, but at that time during the fight, it's just Unknown Assailant. Now the reason it's in this video is because of the whole build up and reveal after. We get attacked by a mysterious person that's wielding a hidden blade, which bear in mind, the hidden blade was never shown or seen in Odyssey at all, except for this one person. The fight itself might seem a bit basic considering it's human versus human or demi-human, whatever you like to call it. And these are fights that are not exactly groundbreaking, but there's one move that Darius does which is quite cool, and it's the move where he kicks you, does some front flip over you, and attacks from behind, which I find to be pretty cool I guess. So yeah, it's more so the whole Darius lore and the hidden blade, which is why it's a pretty good boss fight idea. When I made my What Assassin's Creed Valhalla Did Right video, I mentioned how the start of the game where it featured Kjotve the Cruel and his motives were quite memorable, especially for a game that's so incredibly long. This boss, apart from the actual fight, has to be in this video because of the build up, the design, the fight itself, and also the memory corridor that follows. From the moment Eivor calls for a duel against Kjotve, you can feel that tension and intensity building. It's really the only fight in this game that Eivor has a personal connection with. The sense of vengeance that drives Eivor and the cinematic delivery of this fight is what personally carries it for me. The actual fight itself is fun and the mechanics are well designed, forcing you to stay on your toes, balance your stamina and time attacks and dodges. Also shout out to Hytham for doing his best Altair impression. It was a pretty cute attempt, but man did he get bitched. It's also the post-fight sequence in the memory corridor that leaves a lasting impact. The existential conversation between Eivor, Odin and Kjotve gives off some pretty good depth and meaning. In fact, out of every boss fight in the base game of Valhalla, it's this one that's up there for the best one in value. Not that there is much value, but you know what I'm trying to say. The boss fights in the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC from Origins are quite hit and miss. Some are pretty fun, but some are also pretty bad. But the one I enjoyed quite a lot is the Ramses boss fight. It's a boss that's quite heavily focused on the whole mythology and history side of Origins, mostly mythology, and it's quite memorable. Fighting Ramses in the afterlife, first as a shadow in the streets of Thebes, was handled quite well in this game, but it's the actual battle with Ramses in the afterlife that truly stands out. The arena where the boss fight is pretty cool. You know, there's that massive throne he sits on where he just manifests out of thin air. Now, as cringe as this might sound, I'm not one to toss out the word aura, but Ramses in this boss fight is aura, as cringe as that sounds. I also like how the sandstorm appears at one point during this fight, so you know it's not a boring fight. He does have that one move where he grabs your leg and throws you around like a little boy, which was quite hard to avoid. So yeah, I guess when you have a boss based on a legendary pharaoh with such insane power and presence, Ubisoft simply could not make it a boring and easy fight. I absolutely love the Gamilat boss fight in Assassin's Creed Origins because it's a boss fight that focuses on betrayal, a humorous reference, and the fight itself is quite interesting. Now, unlike most bosses where, you know, you could exploit weaknesses or rely on repetitive strategies, Gamilat throws everything he's got at you. His combat style is pretty aggressive and unpredictable. Also, I'm not entirely sure, but I do believe you will always fall in the water during this fight, which makes it pretty unique in a way. Gamilat himself is not a boring regular boss because if you play through the Hidden Ones DLC, you know that Gamilat is a deeply flawed character whose misguided methods and ultimate death makes things pretty complicated. His willingness to sacrifice innocence for his cause presents a moral challenge that makes the actual boss confrontation feel more important than it should. Despite some criticisms I've seen people have with the fight, like the scaling issues in higher levels, the challenge Gamilat presents is a big part of why the fight is so memorable. Also, the reference he makes to Star Wars, which is a franchise I love, is also a reason why he's in this video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's when he says to Bayek, "I have the high ground." Star Wars fans will definitely know what I'm talking about there.
It's over, Bayek! I have the high ground! It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
You know, I'm starting to look at my list and realize that there is a lot of Fate of Atlantis bosses in this video. And hey, I guess that's what happens when the bosses in this DLC are quite good. Now Hades is next up. This boss fight is genuinely fun to me because it lets you use the skills that you've unlocked throughout the DLC and also in the base game. Hades himself is a boss with quite a lot of health, and this fight is designed to keep you constantly on the move. The interesting thing about this fight is the 3 phases he has, which is quite exclusive for this type of game. Phase 1 is like a shield bar above his health kind of situation, and he has these weird orbs that get closer to you. Phase 2 is more of that shield bar, but Hades also creates a zone that disables your adrenaline. The final phase combines all of his previous attacks and is just a cycle of breaking his shield and attacking him. He can also teleport and start swinging his big ass scythe looking weapon at you, but all in all, he's a boss that with patience and careful timing, you will eventually beat him. I can see most people not enjoying this boss fight, but you know, the whole underworld aspect, the eerie atmosphere, and even Poseidon coming in right at the end is what makes it all enjoyable. It's not a difficult fight by any means, and it's definitely time consuming, but regardless, I had a lot of fun with this DLC in general. I would have placed Charles the Fat a lot higher in this video, but the one main reason that's holding this boss fight back from being placed any higher is the fact that, well, it's 80% a gimmick boss fight, but the reason it's still quite high is because of how unique this fight is, and I don't really think we'll see anything similar to this anytime soon. You see, unlike most traditional boss fights in video games, this fight revolves around you exploiting Charles' intense fear of fire, stemming from a traumatic experience in his youth. You simply can't just hack away at his health like other enemies. Instead, you have to strategically use the environment to your advantage. The fight takes place in a confined room with several lit braziers. The goal here is to bait Charles into the flames or throw him onto them, causing him to take fire damage. What makes this fight fun is the challenge of maneuvering a, let's admit it, fat ass enemy into traps. However, the fight can feel gimmicky because it relies heavily on this one mechanic. The need to repeatedly push Charles into fire can get repetitive, especially if you miss and have to keep trying. Still though, it's a creative twist that makes the fight stand out from the more straightforward boss battles in the game, and even though a gimmick fight might seem bad, it also can be considered good. Now, not to get this boss fight confused with Basim, because you know, Loki and Basim and the whole reincarnation thing, but the Loki boss fight from the Asgard side of Assassin's Creed Valhalla is one of the more underrated boss fights in this game and the franchise by far. In fact, this is a boss fight that I don't really see anybody talk about. What makes the Loki fight so good is his very swift and unpredictable moveset. He constantly teleports around the battlefield, making him hard to track and even harder to hit. He often vanishes and reappears behind you, catching you off guard and punishing any mistakes with rapid slashes. I guess the whole trickster aspect of Loki's character fits quite perfectly with this boss fight, as sometimes you would attack him but he would disappear and reappear right behind you. So yeah, the combination of his speed, his deceptive moveset, and the whole supernatural abilities thing makes this boss fight one of the better ones in Valhalla. It stands out not just for its difficulty, but also for the clever use of the character's lore, making you quite literally truly feel like you're up against the god of mischief. The final boss of Assassin's Creed Valhalla is one that nobody expected, or at least maybe I didn't expect it, because I'm a bit stupid. And the reason it's quite high up in this video is because of the unexpected betrayal, as well as the unique twist that comes at the end of the fight. You see, throughout the game, Basim is presented as an ally, guiding Eivor and Sigurd in their journey. However, when he turns against Eivor, it becomes clear that his motives have always been tied to a deeper, more personal vendetta, one rooted in his past life as Loki and his desire for revenge against Odin, now reborn as Eivor. The fight itself is dynamic and multi-layered, featuring multiple phases where Basim uses his agility, his stealth, and even parkour somehow to keep you on your toes. Unlike other boss fights, defeating Basim is not like one of those hack and slashes where you just deal damage. You have to adapt to a series of unique mechanics like chasing him down and hitting specific weak points to progress. What makes this fight truly compelling is the realization that even though Eivor manages to trap Basim within the EC machine, it's not the end. Centuries later, Basim escapes his imprisonment and re-emerges in the modern day, fully alive and ready to continue his plans. So in a way, did we really win this boss fight? The Cerberus fight in Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of my favourite moments in the DLC, because it completely took me by surprise. Throughout episode 1, the story is all about Persephone, and I was convinced she would be the big boss at the end of the episode. So when I suddenly found myself facing Cerberus, the mythical three-headed dog guarding the gates of the underworld, it was definitely a pretty crazy twist that I didn't see coming. What makes this fight so good is how unexpected it is. He shoots fireballs from each of his 3 heads, creating a burning effect that can drain your health pretty fast if you don't roll out of the way quickly. He also has lunges that can knock you off your feet and deal pretty big damage, and he can even leap across the arena. I'm pretty sure the key was to just dodge his lunges, build up adrenaline, and use powerful abilities in a rinse and repeat cycle. Interestingly, halfway throughout the fight, the dog or the dogs change a little bit as they now unleash a flamethrower effect and fire multiple fireballs at once from all 3 heads. So yeah, it's definitely a unique boss, because well, it has 3 bloody heads, as well as the whole unexpected revelation being a big factor too. Funnily enough, this is the only boss in the entirety of Assassin's Creed Mirage, and also funnily enough, it's a boss that I like to think is pretty good because of many different reasons. Throughout Mirage, Roshan serves as an important figure in Basim's journey from a young street thief to a skilled member of the Hidden Ones. She's not just a mentor, but also a mother figure who teaches Basim the ways of the Brotherhood, molding him into a disciplined and formidable assassin. The bond they share is rooted deeply in trust, respect and shared purpose, making their confrontation all the more heartfelt. When Roshan becomes the final obstacle standing between Basim and his quest for truth, it's a powerful moment not just for us as the player, but also Basim. Roshan knows the dangers that lie beyond the door of the ancient ezio temple beneath Alamut, and fears that the knowledge within could consume Basim, awakening parts of him better left undisturbed. So her resistance is not born out of malice, but a genuine concern for Basim's well-being. The fight itself is also very good. Roshan parries most attacks, forcing you to aim for her weak spot, which is her right shoulder, with a throwing knife to begin the real fight. She is also strangely very fast for someone that looks to be very old, and her extended combos keep you always moving. What are your guys' opinions on mythological boss fights in Assassin's Creed? Because for this one, it could not get any more mythological, and that is the boss fight of the Minotaur in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And no, I'm not talking about the fake Minotaur that we can also find in the game, but the actual one. So this boss fight is one of my favourite ones because of how mysterious and unexpected it is. We're forced to believe that the Minotaur is a rumour, and when we go to find it, it should lead us to a dead end, but that's not the case. The encounter takes place deep underground in a hidden labyrinth beneath the ruins of Knossos Palace on the island of Crete. What I love most about this fight is how it completely catches you off guard. As I said, you would think that it's just another myth or legend, but then you see the Minotaur in the flesh, a massive creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull. Well, I say body of a man, but I don't think Odyssey's depiction of it is quite accurate. We see the Minotaur tossing out the way of a dead man. It's a brutal introduction to what we're about to face. The actual fight is insane. The beast is massive, with powerful attacks that can quickly overwhelm you if you're not careful. It charges at you with its horns and slams the ground with its axe, making it important to always dodge at the right moments. It also didn't really help that the confined space of the underground arena makes it quite uncomfortable to fight in, forcing you to constantly move and react. But then again, where else would the Minotaur boss fight even take place? Unpopular opinion, but the Asgard side of Valhalla was the best part about the base game, which does sound a bit strange because the phrase base game should not really apply to literal Asgard. Anyway, in the Asgard side of Valhalla, the boss that's called the Builder is one that really stands out for being a great boss because of a few reasons. So we encounter the Builder very early, and right from the start you can tell that something's off about him. He initially appears to be a helpful if somewhat mysterious figure who offers to build a powerful defense system for the Aesir in exchange for Freya's hand in marriage. When his real intentions are revealed and he transforms into a monstrous Jotun, the real fight begins. The actual fight against the Builder unfolds in two phases, each with its own set of challenges. In the first phase, the Builder appears to be pretty slow, but don't let that fool you. His attacks are quite powerful and can very quickly drain your health if you're not careful. The second phase is a lot different. Here he conjures a deadly force field to try to trap you. The key here is just dodging and sprinting. Also, these orbs that just launch you into the air to shoot the Builder's head are pretty innovative. So yeah, what makes the Builder fight quite good is the combination of the fight and also the whole quote-unquote betrayal weight. How could I make a video going over the best bosses and not talk about one of the key highlight bosses in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is Medusa? Now, Medusa's fight is great because of the combination of the whole atmosphere and even the difficulty, which for an Assassin's Creed game shouldn't really be the case. In fact, the fight is pretty much a test of how patient and adaptable you are. You can find the boss located deep in the petrified temple on the island of Lesbos, and if I'm not mistaken, I do think you should fight her at level 46, otherwise it will be a bit tricky. The setting itself is quite eerie and unsettling, with petrified victims serving as a grim reminder of Medusa's deadly gaze. When we start the fight, Medusa does not waste any time. She immediately summons stone warriors to fight by her side while she remains protected by a bubble shield, hurling lightning bombs and trying to turn you into stone using her gaze, almost like she's Superman. The key to beating her lies in using the environment to your advantage. The stone pillars scattered across the arena becomes your best friends. Now don't get me wrong, it is quite easy to get overwhelmed, especially when her health is low and she becomes more aggressive, spamming lightning and summoning more minions. It's more so a long battle, but it is definitely worth it in the end. And last but not least, we have a surprise selection in this video. Now, the character depth in Valhalla is something that this game does decent in. Well, not for Eivor or Sigurd, but more so for a few side characters. And one of these characters is Ivar the Boneless. His boss fight stands out as one of the game's most rare memorable moments, both for its emotional weight and the actual fight itself. So Ivar, who is a brutal Viking known as the King Killer, is someone that we have fought alongside with, and at times even respected. However, his betrayal and murder of a certain person, without giving away spoilers, reveals the depths of his obsession with glory and violence. What makes this fight so good is the personal nature of the confrontation. Ivar's actions have cost countless lives, and he's unrepentant to the end, even revealing that he had killed said person to provoke more bloodshed. The boss fight takes place on the rugged cliffs of the Steeper Stones, and the landscape of the fight is what elevates it altogether. Also, his very unorthodox fighting style is all over the place, but that's what makes it so good. It's not generic and standard like many other fights in this game. In fact, this is what I expected a solid boss fight to entail. Also, the choice of whether to send Ivar to Valhalla or deny him this honor forces you to weigh his deeds against Viking ideals. So yeah, this is a very good boss fight, and it is definitely a memorable moment in the game. So there you have it. Those are my personal favourite bosses in Assassin's Creed. Of course, not counting the likes of the villains from the earlier games, as those don't really count as bosses, but more so like set piece moments. Once again, thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to use my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get exclusive bonuses and 2 epic champions to kickstart your raid journey. Anyway, shout out to the members of my Patreon whose names are on screen. If you'd like to support me massively, as well as receiving some cool perks, then consider becoming a member. The link will be down below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.